In case you somehow haven't heard or seen the innumerable videos from other Halo YouTubers covering this topic already, according to Tom Warren, a game journalist that writes for The Verge, Microsoft is in the early planning phases of creating a Halo CE remaster. Let's talk about it. On top of that, the recently rebranded Halo Studios, previously 343 Industries, just announced that future games will be made in Unreal, and in so doing unveiled a rather impressive-looking tech demo to display the assets they've been creating. One of the highlights within this showcase was a render of an altercation between the Master Chief and an Elite. The thing is, Chief is depicted in his Mark V Mjolnir armor, the set he wore during the events of Halo CE. In my opinion, this just further adds fuel to the fire when it comes to the supposed Halo Combat Evolved remaster. Why would they create a display of the Chief's original attire and not what we saw in Halo Infinite? It's not like that design wasn't fantastic. In fact, it was loved pretty much universally. Picking this specific era is very odd if they aren't actually working on some kind of remake or remaster. If you're a Halo fan that's been around for a while, you're probably thinking, a CE remaster? But wait, didn't we already get that back in 2011? Why yes, we did. Granted, it isn't exactly the greatest remaster ever released, but it is something. No shade to Saber Interactive or Certain Affinity for creating this game. In fact, in some instances, I think they should be applauded. The ability to swap between the original look of CE and the new remastered coat of paint with the press of a button is utterly brilliant, and as far as I'm concerned, should be the industry standard for remasters in the future. Being able to see exactly what was changed is great for new players that maybe want to see what the game used to be like, or even old salts who just want to compare visuals. On the other hand, most of the improved textures are somewhat strange, and in many instances they're completely unable to capture the essence of what CE looked like. To put it simply, the visuals don't appear to be updated versions of what was seen in the original game, but are sort of just their own thing. Instead of creating models for weapons and characters based on their original textures, many assets are simply reused from Reach or redesigned to the point that their original look is completely lost. The Mission 343 Guilty Spark is an excellent example of how the updated graphics actually managed to hinder the atmosphere of the level. The dark dinginess is stripped away, and with it, a lot of the ominous feelings that come from the fog and limited visibility. I could go on, but many have covered this topic extensively before me, and I don't feel like I have anything new or substantial to contribute to this conversation. Cluttered looking and occasionally wonky character models aside, it's easy enough to simply ignore the new textures, swap to the old graphics, and enjoy the game as it was originally created, but with the modern benefits of higher screen resolution and increased frame rate. Personally, when I replay CE these days, I play exclusively in the original graphics, at least until I want to grab a skull or watch a terminal, both of which were added as bonus content to give returning players something new to look out for. These additions are also great, much like the brilliant ability to swap between old and new graphics. All of that being said, Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary is sort of a mixed bag. It has some nice new features, but overall it sort of failed to accomplish what it set out to do, which was visually overhaul Halo CE in a pleasing fashion. Does that mean an additional remaster is warranted, or even necessary? I'm not sure. I have mixed feelings about it, to say the least. On one hand, updating the anniversary graphics to look better would be nice. I'm cool with that, but if they're remastering CE again, will it be independent of the Master Chief Collection? MCC is a wonderful bundle that includes all of the original Halo first-person shooters largely untouched and in one package with unified menus and crossover systems. Every map, every campaign, every multiplayer customization item, every game mode, and a whole slew of brand new features for games that are over 10 years old can be found within MCC. It truly is the definitive way to play the original Halo titles with the entirety of their content intact, barring menus and loading screens, which still should be added to MCC, by the way. Do we really need a brand new version of CE that is separate from the Master Chief Collection? In a way, rendering it incomplete? No, I don't think so. A premium DLC to MCC? Maybe. That seems like a better alternative, so long as all three graphical versions remain. The anniversary graphics may be a little ugly, but they're an important part of Halo's history and shouldn't be overwritten. Like the rest of the content in MCC, they should be preserved, despite their failings. This is all assuming that whatever they're working on truly is a remaster, which is what the original rumor stated. That just isn't logical to me, though. If it was a remake, now that makes a little more sense to create. Do I think CE needs to be remade? No, not really. I just played through the campaign again with my wife a few weeks ago, and to me, it's still a great game. It's fun, the sandbox is awesome, the AI is excellent, it's all around a good time, even now. Aside from jumping, nothing about it feels dated to me. It doesn't feel bad, even though it can seem a bit slow after playing lots of newer games with enhanced movement mechanics like sprint or slide. I've played a lot of video games in my life, and sometimes old classics just don't hold up very well many years later, but astoundingly, CE does. It's entirely possible that I'm a bit biased or just a little old, but I don't really think that's the case. I think Halo Combat Evolved is just a good game. That being said, I do think a remake is the most likely outcome, and I imagine if that's what happens, it'll be entirely within Unreal. If done successfully, it would be a great way to gain some goodwill from the clearly angry Halo community, and could illustrate that the new leadership stewarding the franchise is capable of delivering a good product. It's also likely an attractive option due to its relative ease. Halo CE's campaign and story is well loved, so the bones of a good game is already there. Building upon it, or rather a version of it, would probably be a bit easier to do than create something brand new, and is something they're already aware people respond to favorably. Of course, that's assuming it's faithful and fun. So, continuing this train of thought, let's assume that if a new version of CE is being developed, it will be a remake instead of a remaster. What changes? Level structure? Enemy placement, sandbox items, or God forbid, story beats? As much as 343 Industries was disliked by many, they did have a great track record of wanting to keep everything canon. The books, the games, whatever. If the new and hopefully improved Halo Studios continues with this mantra, which I sincerely hope they do, I can't imagine that a remake of CE would really change the story in a meaningful way. Frankly, it doesn't need changing, and doing so would be pretty idiotic if you ask me. With that said, what would be changed then? Would this be a Dead Space remake scenario? If so, I suppose it wouldn't be all bad. If they used Dead Space as a blueprint for their remake, perhaps they could create something genuinely interesting. 95% of the narrative within the original Dead Space was preserved in the remake, and in some instances, straight up improved upon. Annoying sections of the game were removed and redesigned to be far superior than their original counterparts. Let's apply this logic to CE. If this happens, then I suppose tweaking the library to be a little less confusing and a bit less repetitive would be a welcome change. I would also love to see stronger narrative threads connected to the Flood novel and Halo Fireteam Raven, the arcade cabinet. Maybe add a level that takes place on Alpha Base, the UNSC's stronghold on the ring that is never seen in-game but is present in both of the other stories I mentioned. Maybe they could restore cut sections or reintroduce weapons or enemies that were never fully fleshed out, like the flamethrower. This could be an interesting opportunity to introduce some of the cut dig site content into the game officially. If you don't know what I'm referring to, I have an entire video detailing the cut content for CE that's been made publicly accessible. Check it out after this if you're interested. In this scenario, the remake could sort of function like a director's cut, a version of CE that contains all of the content that didn't make it into the final product due to time constraints. I could see that being pretty cool. Although, I'd still prefer it to be part of the MCC, somehow, even if it's a $60 DLC or whatever. In the end, though, the question still remains. Does Halo Combat Evolved need another remaster or a remake? To me, the answer is an obvious no. It doesn't need it. Such a project seems like a waste of resources. Put that manpower into the next Halo game instead. Take the bare bones of Infinite and level them up. Turn them into an actual 10-year plan this time. Move the story forward. For the love of everything, please don't abandon the story threads that were just established. Don't pretend the Endless or the Banished no longer exist. Don't shelve them. Just commit. Please just commit to the story that was being told. If not a new mainline game, then do a spin-off. People have been practically begging for one for years. How about a sequel to ODST involving Buck's now Spartan squad? How about a Swords of Sanghelios game centered around the Arbiter and the crazy stuff he's been dealing with on his homeworld after or during Halo 5? Halo Wars 3? Are we ever going to see what the hell happened to Anders? Revive the canceled Halo Mega Bloks game. That looked amazing. I want a goofy version of the events depicted in each Halo campaign or from books in the style of a Lego game where characters that can't interact do. Look at LEGO The Skywalker Saga as an example of what I mean. A flood survival horror in the same vein as Alien Isolation? That has to be the easiest slam dunk imaginable. Halo is an incredible IP with tons of amazing characters and locales. The universe is vast and extremely rich. Pardon the pun, but it genuinely has infinite potential. Make something new, just make something new. That's just my 2 cents, anyways. In the end, if CE is remade, I'll still play it and give it a fair shot, but I would really just prefer if they worked on something else. Alright, that's all I've got. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go play some Halo, I guess.